Okay, so um, basically what we're going to be getting into here is a little bits of stuff about food. So food is absolutely a drug. Like, I mean, if you've never been addicted to like Big Chicken Macs, what is it called? I don't even remember what it's called. It's so good. McChickens, that's what I love. Man, I get addicted to a large fry and 2 McChickens daily.
Now, as I was saying,
You know what I'm saying?
drugs are
Tastes
bad.
good.
You shouldn't do drugs. If you do them, you're bad because
Yeah.
drugs are bad.
But basically, the fact that it's a drug is because our tongues absolutely get addicted to foods. Okay? That's why I be drinking sugar-free. This is sugar-free Mountain Dew. Because sugar's a drug. It's absolutely one of the most powerful ones that exist because it tastes amazing. Let me go into kind of the way to get rid of this, in my opinion, is the first step. I call it breaking the tongue. Okay, that's like step number 1. You kind of have to break your own tongue. What breaking the tongue essentially means is to be able to control your cravings. Okay, especially like those late night ones.
Weak.
Feel me? So like the late night cravings are some of the hardest ones to deal with. What I like to do is I like to combat these with like a banana. Like I will use a banana, not a banana, I'll use like 4 or 5 bananas to combat late night cravings. Because you don't want to keep ice cream and things like that in the house, really, because you're going to gorge on them, especially if you're trying to, you know, break your tongue of the bad habits, of your tongue running your hormones of your life. If you're dealing with things like anxiety, stress, mental health issues, the last thing you want to be doing is to be putting hyper palatable foods on your tongue, because the hormones that's going to spin up in your gut bacteria are going to give you more of the same, okay? And it's going to make you
Weak and pathetic.
it's going to make you super weak. You don't want to be doing that stuff. So you kind of want to ask yourself, especially late at night or whenever you're getting these type of hunger pangs, you want to look at that food really and just be thinking,
You sure about that? You sure about that?
you know what I'm saying? So let's bring this back to where we break the tongue. What does that mean? That means we want to get to a place to where we're closer to OMAD, which is 1 meal a day. Now, it can really be 2 meals. It doesn't have to be 1 meal. 1 meal, I realize, is super intense. But we get to a point to where we're basically having close, what we're going to call it close. Get that out of the way. Close to 1 meal. And we're going to want that, you know, whatever your caloric needs are. But once you get close to it, then you can introduce whole foods. Whole foods are what you really want to be dealing with. If you're trying to break some of the food addictions and stuff like that, then it's absolutely important to make sure you're not putting more hyperpalatable foods on your tongue. Okay? So breaking the tongue is one of the first things. You get to a point to where you can do good bouts of fasting, and then you're using fruits, vegetables, berries, strawberries, squashes. And that's what's inside of your OMAD. Because putting the hyperpalatable foods will disrupt and ruin your gut bacteria. That's where your mental health, your anxiety, your stress, things like that, they come from the gut. your gut microbiome. The bacteria and fungus that live inside of you are actually where you get your energy levels from. So how bioactive you are as a organism with a metabolism will constitute your efficiency of energy, because you're thermodynamic. You use thermal energy to run and function. Okay, so you're based on food to create thermal calories. I hope that that makes sense, because what I'm going to go into now is I'm going to talk about a little bit more about the thermal calories, okay? So we have something called a calorie. It is a thermal unit. A thermal unit, as far as caloric values go, you have them in this order. They're always in this order. They're never in any other order. You have fats. They equal 9 calories per gram. Okay? You have carbs. Those equals 4 calories, thermal units, per gram. You have protein. This is the one you really just mostly want to try to eat the most of, really. But that has also 4 calories per gram. Okay, so the multiplication to this is times 9 times 4 and times 4. Fats, carbs, proteins. Okay? So the best way to go about working this whole thing out, now this is a lifelong thing, so don't feel like you got to learn it today or tomorrow or even by a week. It's a sad thing that this isn't taught in schools, because then all of us would be a lot happier, less depressed. All of these bad hormones going around in our gut microbiome, making us sick, sad, depressed, and then affecting all of those around us and our loved ones. You know, all of those that are among us. We don't want to be a negative impact on those around us. That's all my point is here. So, let's move back to the drawing board. I'm going to make an example of my favorite food. Okay, let's say that the fats on my favorite food. This is on a nutrition label. It's on a nutrition label. It's always like square rectangle like this, okay? We're going to say that it's, you know, the numbers I like to see. We're going to say it's 8 grams. The carbs, it's got the number that I like to see, which is 5 grams. And this is all per serving, but irregardless of the per serving, that's not as important as kind of these base numbers. And then the proteins, right? Let's say that this is the numbers I like to see, at least like 12. You know, this is mostly this is a good solid food right here. This is a super good solid food. So we take 8 times 9 is 72 thermal calories from the fat macro. Now, 5, we're going to take 5, we're going to go times 4, because remember it's times 9 times 4 times 4. That's the formula right there. With that formula, we can build an idea of what this whole pie chart should look like, okay? So, times 4 is going to be 20 calories, thermal caloric units for the carb macro. So, we're basically going to be adding that to that. We're going to go plus, 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 and it's going to give us the calories in one serving. Usually they range from like 100 to like 200 per serving or something to that effect. Okay? So, now we're going to take 12 times 4, right? Because there's the 4. 12 times 4 is 48. 48 calories for the protein macro. Okay, so now that we have these, we're going to add them together. We can see we have 48, we have 68 plus 72. 68, 72 is going to be, oops, let me cut this back up. Boom. Sorry about that. Clearly, somebody needs to purchase that. I don't think it's me, but maybe it is. Let's stop mirroring. Let's bring back up mirroring. Let's bring that back on screen. My apologize. So, the reason that we're doing this is so that we can create this pie chart. This pie chart is going to give us an idea of what it's going to do to our gut hormones. Our gut hormones are essentially going to indicate how we're going to feel, how we're going to act, the energy levels we're going to have, the mental conditions that's going to go up through the blood system and feed the brain, feed the mind, okay? So we're going to see exactly the fact that this is 68 plus 72 is 70, so it's a 140. So it's 140 once you combine these three. This one plus this one plus this one. It's 140, right? So this whole pie chart is 140. Now we can see that it is, out of 140, almost half of it is fat. That's good. That's going to be a nice stable blood sugar. We can see that of that, just a little bit more, let's see, that's the 72. This is going to be the 48. This is going to be the protein. So this food right here is mostly a fat. Then next it's kind of a protein. And then it's got that nice lower carbohydrate, right? So we can see that the whole point of breaking our macros is to give us this pie chart, to give us this understanding of what this food is going to do once it enters our body. It enters our gut microbiome. It's going to change how we feel, how we think, the energy we have, our bioenergetics, and ultimately who we are. Now, if these are daily compounding habits that absolutely become your life. Okay, so I hope that helps. Hope that gives you a little bit of insight as to comping these numbers, but mostly the slow journey. You can learn this in a week. Times 9, times 4, times 4. That's it. But the first step is breaking the tongue. Once you break the tongue, then we try to make sure that we're not taking in high glycemic foods. Okay, hope that helps.